This is the Domain Magnet Show, where you'll learn everything you need to know about buying, optimizing, and selling online businesses with your host, Michael Bereslavsky.
Welcome, podcast listeners. On this episode, we have Richard Lau, serial entrepreneur with over 20 years experience in buying, developing, and selling premium domain names, who has had multiple exits and not all successful. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
So I got to ask you about the non-successful exits first.
Yeah. So I was fairly early into domain name space, but I was running a registrar, not so much buying and selling domain names at that time. That was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I built a registrar called Names Direct, and we purchased another business called mydomain.com, which was offering free domain names, free DNS services to about 500,000 domain name customers. And things were going gangbusters. It was before Godaddy really started. It was before Two Cows started. So we were really just competing against VeriSign at Network Solutions, and so it was fantastic. We were one of the first 30 registrars. We were printing money, and so being Canadian, the natural thing to do is to hop on a plane and move your jurisdiction so that when you have a big exit, you only pay the difference in capital gain between what it was worth when you left and what it was worth when you sold it. And we had grandiose plans. And so, fast forward, we moved the family to Bermuda. I've got a 3-month-old. My wife is, very supportive. And we get there, and within the span of 90 days, Two Cows comes out at $14.95. GoDaddy comes out. Our website is hacked, and the hacker deletes all of our everything, all of our code, our customer base, etc. So then we had to, struggle to find a backup that's as recent as possible. And at the same time, I'm having health problems where I'm passing blood, and I'm just like, it's all the stress, right, of working 18 hours a day. And so then I go to the hospital, and they're like, yeah, it's an ulcer, here's some medicine. And then a few days later, I can't even stand up. So I take myself back to the hospital and check myself in, and basically it's colon cancer. And they're, long story short, they're like, you need to change your life because you don't have very long to live. And so I'm compress this all down, but it's life is what you make it, right? It's not when or it's not if you're going to get punched in the face, it's when you're going to get punched in the face. And life is how you react to that. Now, for me, having been told that you're not going to leave the hospital, you're going to need chemotherapy, and then to have that turnaround where it turned out it was just a super fast growing tumor. They got it out in time. I didn't need chemo. Here I am, 21 years later. But that really does, give you a wake up call. And so I was like, okay, what do I need to do? My doctor's like, you need to lower your stress because this is genetic. You have like a 50% chance it's going to reoccur in 5 years, and 80% chance it's going to kill you. So, stats are you're going to die in you got a 40% chance of dying in the next 5 years. So I sold the company, right? I'm just like, okay, I just need to find a buyer. And along with that rush of selling comes sloppiness in due diligence, and not thinking things through, and not getting the right advisor, not getting the right advice. And so fast forward a year, I'm living in California. It's 35 hours a week. It's, it's like a walk in the park, coming down from 120 hours a week. But fast forward a year, they're doing all kinds of Enron accounting. The the company loses 97% of its value. The only thing that's really of value is the assets that I vended in, but I traded it for stock, right? So at the end of the day, I left the company, came back to Vancouver, and I had a severance check. That was it. I lost, $4 or $5 million company, and instead I've got a severance check, which I actually split with my two partners. And so, that is a brutal lesson in how not to exit. And so that but the some of the advice I received after that was, the best revenge is to live a good life. And so I just, got back on the horse, but rearranged my life so that I could be a lifestyle entrepreneur rather than building that, business with dozens of employees and just the round the clock offices in different time zones. So I rearranged my life and got into buying and selling domain names.
Wow, that's quite a story. Well, I gotta say, you look pretty good for someone who had cancer and 20 years ago, and yeah. So does it mean you no longer work 18 hours a day now?
That's correct. Yeah. I have put in the long spurts of hours when necessary. When we were starting up the NamesCon conference in Las Vegas in 2014. When you're running the conference, when the conference is on, we were working 20 hours a day. But you can do that for 3 or 4 days. And then we put processes in place. We realized very quickly that even though it's a 3 or 4 day event in Las Vegas, it's actually a year-long business. And so we had an office in Vancouver. We had employees. We had an entire team. We started to really have a process. And when we started NamesCon, we knew that we wanted to exit. So we were planning for the exit from day one. So it was a completely different animal.
How big was NamesCon? How many people did you have at your biggest event?
Just over 1,500 people, which for the domain industry makes it the largest domain name conference. The ICANN sometimes has had larger ones, but they're completely free. Their numbers are a little askew. But when you're charging everyone, we were definitely the largest domain name conference, and we've sold it. It was went into the Godaddy family, but they've just spun it out again, and so it's on its own. It's in its own conference business, along with World Hosting Days. And so they've got a whole new team running that, and it's great for me because now I can finally attend the conference and reap the benefits as an attendee rather than just being the host, making sure that all of the fires are put out.
What was it profitable? Is it profitable to run a conference?
It was profitable. We went into it, kind of like ignorance is bliss. We didn't realize that most conferences lose money in their first few years. We actually started the conference as a fundraiser for Water School, which is a charity that I've been involved in and the domain industry has been involved in for many years. And so our original idea was to hold a conference, get everyone in, and then everyone will be in Las Vegas, and then we'll have a water shave, we call it, where we shave people's heads and raise money for these clean water projects in Uganda. It's under waterschool.com, of course. And so that was our main focus of building of starting the conference. And so if you're raising money for charity, then you have to be profitable because the profit is, and donations are what we're going towards the charity. And so, we were profitable from day one. And we raised over $100,000 combined with the profits and the donations in that first year. And over the years that I owned it, we raised over $500,000 for waterschool.com. And then we sold the conference. And as I said, we were building the conference with our exit in mind from day one.
Yeah, that's great. I think I attended one or two of your events in Europe a few years ago. I spoke at one of them as well. But I think the last one you did online, right? Last year?
Yeah, so the ones that were in Europe and the ones that were online were after I sold it.
Okay.
I was keeping it small in terms of the one event per year in Las Vegas. And under the new ownership, they expanded the brand. They actually acquired other conferences like Domaining Europe and then rebranded that as NamesCon. But yes, the last one was online, and the one coming up in September of 2021 will also be online. And it's been done very well, and it's had very positive reviews for the online version.
Yeah, that's great. So the conference, the domain registrar, and then the next thing you were doing is just buying and developing domain names, right?
Yeah, I've been buying and selling domain names for 20 plus years. And as you go along, you get better and better ones coming across your desk. And occasionally you're able to capture one and just put it into inventory. And so, we have an inventory, whether we own them outright or whether we own them in partnership with other investors. Such names as face.com, hockey.com, rides.com. We had resume.com, which we developed and sold. Logo.com is one that we're building right now. We have an entire team working on that full time. And then we've got other ones that are just in our stable for the future, like stock.photo and stock.photos and model.net. We have ideas for how these domains could be built out, and we're either going to do it ourselves, or our kids will do it, or we'll find a partner, or we'll be able to sell it to an end user who values it for that best case use.
Does face.com get a lot of type-in traffic from Facebook?
I don't think so. I think people are looking for face detection software. They're also looking for cosmetics. It's a natural word. So face.com, the domain is what we call a super premium, oneword.com. So it's what we love to have. We have thousands of domains, but the super premium oneword.coms are the ones that we have an end use in mind and a business in mind, and we're hoping that we either do it or we find a partner or we find an end user to buy it.
Was Facebook interested in acquiring it?
I think they're fine without it. They've got Facebook, they've got FB.com. We don't see the ultimate buyer as Facebook. We see it as someone who is either in the crypto space where your facial identity is attached in the blockchain, and it's branded under face.com, or it's dating, or it's cosmetics, or it's facial detection.
Yeah, that's a good point. Excellent. So how many domains do you own currently?
I believe at last count it was well into the six figures. But
it's like more than 100,000 domains.
Yes, yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, and that's in. I do a lot of our business structuring with partners, so that is with partners. Those are not names that are owned under my name. Of those six figures, I honestly would be hard pressed to be able to write down on a scrap piece of paper more than 50, because they're very long tail domains. 2 and 3 word.coms. They're held, and most of them are priced with buy it now at less than $2,000. It's a long model of and very difficult model with very thin margins. People see, oh, you registered it for $7 and you're selling it for $1,300. Yes, but we also have 999 other domains that we have to pay the renewal fee on. So of that $1,300, maybe $40 is profit. It's very thin. It is when you're getting up into the high numbers, it's a difficult business.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I have a small portfolio of maybe 500 domains remaining now that are similar, like 1-2 word. And I found the best thing is just to list them all everywhere. And some of them get sales from Afternic, and most are listed with the ones that were like reg fee are mostly listed at like between 500 to 1500, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of kind of random sales. As long as it's automated, doesn't take any time. It seems like a good business model. And maybe 1, 2, 3% sell a year, something like that. Is it like similar for you in that range?
Yeah, we're seeing less than 1%. So maybe it's just bad choices in the domains. But I also think that as your portfolio gets larger, it's easier for that number to go down. There's a sweet spot, and it's a matter of finding what that sweet spot is. If your portfolio is too small, then no one's finding you, and if your portfolio is too big, it's easy to to run askew and carry dead weight, right? You need to spend the time going through and making sure you're culling names that aren't going to have that that aren't on a current trend or a future trend. And it's if it's in a past trend and that trend is past, don't renew it, get rid of it. And what we're trying to do is always like anticipate what are people going to be registering in a year or two from now, and let's try and get those names registered so that they're available for the best case user. Just as an example, we recently sold a coffee domain, and it's going to obviously a coffee brewer, and if that name hadn't been registered, hadn't been registered by us and made available for sale, they wouldn't be able to have it. So a lot of people, when they land on a domain name that's listed for sale, they're like, "Oh shoot, it's for sale." It should be the other way around, right? You should be celebrating. Oh, good, somebody hasn't just randomly registered it, and they're using it for their pet cat that is coffee colored. It's just like, if the domain is listed for less than $5,000, it's a steal. Domain name prices are going up, especially in the .com space. As more and more TLDs come out, the .com value is climbing, and so it's a very good time to be selling domain names. And
so
in fact, I just sold a .net for a lot of money, and it's into the six figures. And if you had asked me 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when the all of those new TLDs were being launched, I would have sold you that .net for probably 25% of what I actually sold it for.
So do you register new domains still? Do you register them often now? Are there still opportunities for new domainers to like buy domain at reg fee, build a small portfolio and make a profit, you think?
I think there are. I think you have to be very smart about it. You have to be doing your keyword research, looking at trends. There's lots of newsletters. I think Hustle has one where they're telling you about the keyword trends that people are searching for, that people are talking about, whether it's on TikTok or other social media. And then you can look around those things, like if they're coming out, when allergies are being talked about as cures, you're like, okay, well, the brands are going to launch their brands, but you can also take non-trademark infringing generic names, right? Like so if the peanut allergy is coming out, you can register peanutallergypills.com or peanut allergy pill depot, right? It's a 4-word or peanut allergy pill prescription, right? You can get these or doctor or whatever. You can make this list, and you just need one of those of the 20 to 50 that you register to sell to cover it and squeak out a profit, right? If you're just buying one, well, that's like buying a lottery ticket. But if you cover a little area, then you can sell one, or you can sell the whole portfolio. But yeah, there's tactics. I don't do it as much as I used to. I'm 51 years old now, and I'm trying not to work, 10 to 12 hours a day. But there are others out there who are, and they're younger and they're more willing to go through the lists. It's a lot of list culling, or write the algorithms to go through the lists. So yeah, there's definitely opportunity. It's just wrapped up in a lot of work.
What's the biggest amount you've ever paid for a domain, and what's like the highest you've ever got for selling a domain name?
Oh, that's an interesting question. The most we paid was when we were involved in buying Credit Check and freecreditcheck.com. And we're buying them from two different buyers at the same, two different sellers, and trying to negotiate without letting the other know that we were actually going to buy both. And so that was well into the seven figures, and kept them for a couple of years, and then sold them at auction for a 50% gain. And so I didn't do that by myself. I had partners, but I was the one that put the whole deal together, and then put the deal to sell it together. And so you don't have to have money to be in this business. You can start from scratch. You can help other people. You can put deals together. You can be creative. You can be a broker. You can, find interesting names to register for someone else who will actually pay. So there's lots of different ways of getting involved in the domain name buying and selling business.
And so did most of your deals go with some investors and some external capital, or did you mostly use your own funds for the acquisitions?
It was definitely a mix. For the lower category domains, I used my own money. When I first got into was getting back into the domain business, after having lost my company, I bought a portfolio of domains, and I literally paid for it on a credit card. But these were revenue names. I knew that they would generate revenue. They weren't being monetized properly. So I bought this portfolio. It was about just over $5,000, and I was able to buy it on a credit card. And I needed to, because I had that thin severance check, and my wife's like, "What are you doing? You going back into this business?" So I basically used the credit card financing to buy this small portfolio, and connected it up, polished it up, and got it generating $2,000 a month in revenue. And so, a 2.5 month payback. Gosh, show me an online business that you can buy for that. At the end of the day, and we'll be buying them every day. So for that, I didn't need an investor, but yeah, for larger deals like buying resume.com and resumes.com, and buying the credit check and free credit check, we bring partners in. And they're not always the same partners. Like, we'll often have put in like a different syndicate group, or just one other partner. So there's lots of domains that we own with lots of different partners.
And what was your highest revenue domain, or the highest revenue you ever got, like in a day, from a domain name?
I think it would be, let me think about that. It was probably the credit check names, because at the time, the three bureaus in the United States were pushing a website called Free Annual Credit Check, or Free Annual Report, something like that. And so, when we were developing our SEO and advertising campaigns for Free Credit Check, then we had this kind of instant recognition. And the crazy thing is that we were then sending the business over to those three credit bureaus. They were upselling them onto a paid platform instead of to the free platform that was government mandated. So yeah, their heart wasn't in it, and they were quite happy to have the traffic coming in through Free Credit Check. But that's kind of past its day, and we were able to sell out at a good time. But yeah, I think that was probably our highest revenue earning. But we bought it as a revenue generating. We kind of polished it up and then sold it on. So it was really very much like buying an apartment building renovating it, increasing the rents, and then selling it on. And that's exactly what we did with Credit Check and Free Credit Check.
Yeah, that's very similar to what we do with online businesses. And I've done that before with domain names as well. But when we switched fully to online businesses, and now we don't do any domaining, there is just more opportunities. So we've acquired different content businesses, different SaaS businesses, and then just been able to improve things, improve monetization, improve SEO, and then resell. So it's kind of a similar thing with domain names, I suppose, except you also have the value of the big domain name and the opportunities for some strategic acquirers.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a very similar business. With all of this talk about domain names, my main focus, what takes up all of my time, is actually building the domain names out, right? So when we built out resume.com, we had an office that I would go to every day in Vancouver, and we had the team there, and we're all crammed in, tiny desks in a small space. With COVID, when we're building out logo.com, everyone is allowed to work remotely. And so our team has actually spread out even more than just being in Vancouver. But logo.com is a real business. It's all of the software we've built from scratch. We were solving a problem for our own use, and then expanding it out to the world. And so, you as your listeners are people that are buying websites, and they're like, okay, I'm going to put a fresh coat of paint on this thing. I'm going to change, maybe I'll change the logo, change the color scheme, change the monetization network. This is something that you want to do and move quickly on. And so, with logo.com, you can get a new logo for $20 in 20 minutes. Whereas, the traditional online logo design takes anywhere from 5 to 20 days. And there's revisions going back and forth. Well, we can spin up 300 Amazon web servers, multi-threaded, in a fraction of a second, have all of those conversations, and then just present you with 100 different logo designs. And then you can scroll through and say, what jumps out at me, right? We've spent 2 years taking human creativity and putting it into different algorithms. And so when you see something as a human, instantly if you like it or not. And taking that X factor and being able to put it into a predictable flow is what logo.com is all about. And so we're able to generate thousands of logos per day for our customers to choose from. And they can choose from these logos, download them, and have them available immediately.
Yeah,
and
so I've just tried it for a bit and entered them in Magnate, and I see some different logos that it already provided.
Yeah, and each one is just a starting point. You can then click on it, and then you can change the coloring. You can look at different designs. Everything's changeable, the font, etc. But we do we're trying to keep people from destroying design as well, right? Instead of just dropping you into a tool that looks like an online Photoshop software, we're trying to keep you within some bounds so that you're going to end up with a clean, professional logo that's not over-designed, that doesn't have too many colors in it, that is going to be high resolution enough that it will look good, regardless of the sizing. So, it's hard to have a non-designer end up with a good design if they don't have any design skill or design training. But what you like when you see it. So that's what our tool has to carry, that fine balance between being easy to use, fast, and clean professional designs. And we think we've accomplished it. Most of our customers do take the higher packages because they have then the social media files, they've got the letterhead, they've got access to business cards, etc. But if you're simply just reskinning a website that's generating a few $100s a month as an Amazon, it's a made for Amazon, or it's a Google AdWords site, it's WordPress. You just need a logo in the top corner. You've got a lot of things to do. You've got content to refresh. You've got content to rewrite. You don't want to get stuck for 3 weeks on a logo and holding a contest and like going back and forth with a designer who's designing something that looks cartoon-like because they're in a different country and they're in a different culture. You need to be able to have the sandwich down, because we recognize that your logo isn't the central part of your business. It's simply your communication in that split second of communicating goodwill, professionalism, etc. But you have a checklist of 100 items to do, and logo is just one of them. So we're here to solve that problem for our users, and we do it thousands of times a month. So it's obviously working well, and we're proud of what we've been able to accomplish in 2 years.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I see $20 is your smallest package, and I guess there are no free options. So it's only paid. Paid product.
There's the old adage, money is really just a form of thank you, right? And so if we're delivering value, then we believe that we've earned the right for as low as $20. But we try and deliver 5 to 10 times the value. So when you're looking at the $20, we're comparing that to what you would pay to our competitor at 100, right? And in terms of time as well, the time saved works into this calculation. And so when you're buying our $100 package, we think that we're delivering $1,000 worth of value because of the amount of social media kits, the tools, the various different sizes of logo sizes and variations. So it's
So tell us a little bit more about what it takes to build a business like that, and how is it doing now? Is it profitable? Is it generating some solid revenue? And what did it really take to build it out from scratch?
Yeah, so when you look at the logo business, if you go to logo.com/pricing, you can see that we sell kits and we sell plans, right? And the plans are subscription, right? It's logos where your logo.com is where your logo lives, and you have access to all of the brand tools, because you build a logo, but then you need to build your brand over time. And so you want to have access to the different brand tools as and when you need them. And so that's what we build we have a subscription for that. And so when you're signing customers on and they're going onto the subscription plan, the subscription is as low as $5 a month, but you've got all of the development costs and the support costs, et cetera. That $5 in that month isn't going to cover it. So you have to work out and calculate, okay, what's the lifetime value of a $5 a month customer, right? And we can spend up to that amount in gaining that customer and servicing that customer and building the tools for that customer. So when you look at it that way, then yes, we're profitable. If you look at it as a pure cash flow basis, no, we're not profitable, as most software as a service businesses are not profitable in their early growth stages. And you don't want to be, right? You want to be spending your money developing out the tool sets and building out your customer base. We're not looking at this as a lifestyle business. We're looking at this as a build this massive tool set that delivers exponential value to our customers and build a very, very large user base.
And so what did it take to build this business from scratch? You said it took 3 years of development. Was it was it a really big project? Did you work on it personally a lot, or did you have agency help or your team?
Yeah, so we've had different team members graduate up and take on the role of a project manager. So we had that for NamesCon, we had that for Resume, we have a different business partner from our team running logo.com. And it's not it's not a simple task because you've got this domain name that's worth 7 figures. And then you've got this startup company that needs to write its code and its website, its marketing plan, hire developers, hire customer support, content writers, etc. And so, yeah, we've done it where the domain name is placed into escrow. The company has an option to purchase that domain name. So even though logo.com runs on logo.com, the company running logo.com doesn't own the domain. It has a lease and an option to purchase. And that way, the money that's raised or input, a few different partners put money in to fund this logo.com startup 2 years ago. And so when we're putting that money in, it knows definitively, okay, well, this is how much money it would cost to buy the domain when we need to buy it. You don't have to raise the money at day one to buy the domain. And so we've done that in the past. We've done that with external companies where we have the domain and we're giving them the option to purchase. And it's a great way to get involved in super premium domain names without having the funds to buy it.
So you mortgage your domain name and then use the loan to develop it, basically?
No, you don't even. It's like, you want to set up a McDonald's on the corner of this high volume intersection, and so you're like, okay, well, I'm going to pay rent. I'm going to lease the land, and I'm going to raise money to build the building, but I'm not. Instead of raising money to buy the land and then raising money to build the building, you just raise money to lease the land with an option to purchase it. So that's what we're doing here is, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just looking at real world real estate and saying, okay, how does that apply to domain names? So yeah, if someone has a super valuable domain name, if you go to, I think it's venture.com is a great example. At venture.com, you can go and they don't even list prices for what the domain name would sell for because they don't sell domains. They'll only lease you the domain name, which, each to their own. But, paying, $6,000 a month to own bacon.com could definitely be worthwhile, right? And it gets you access to a 7-figure domain name for 5 or 6 figures a year. Yeah. And so it's really a much better use of the capital that you raise as a startup, right? So instead of having to raise 7 figures to buy logo.com and fund the development of it, we only needed to raise 6 figures to say, okay, well, we've got, we want a 2-year run rate of being able to hire developers, write the code, etc., and pay for the lease of the domain name. Well, we just needed to raise, multiple 6 figures in there. But yeah, it's absolutely. A lot easier to raise that from friends, family, and internally than, trying to raise 7 figures to buy the domain and then do the startup. So the fact that we're doing it ourselves, is we're just replicating what we've done with other people and what, venture.com is doing every single day.
Yeah, so I see you can rent affiliatemarketing.com, for example, for $2,250 per month.
Right? That seems cheap. Are you going to, let's say you and I start an affiliate marketing business. Should we call it, Bereslavsky and Lau.org? Or should we call it affiliatemarketing.com, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For $2,250 a month?
It's
money well spent.
Yeah, it's like instant recognition in the industry. And people would immediately think that you probably know what you're talking about if you have that kind of domain.
Exactly. When we were running Resume, I was going down to a conference in LA and I sent a 1-line message in LinkedIn to the CEO of ZipRecruiter, and which is like a $300 million company. and 15 minutes later, I get a reply, right? And it's, he wouldn't do that if I was emailing him from, resumeriver.com, right? Or resumemountain.net, but the fact that I'm messaging him as the founder of resume.com, he's like, yeah, let's have a meeting, right?
Yeah.
It opens doors. You have that instant recognition that, hey, if you go to logo.com, you know that we're living and breathing logos, right? If you go to resume.com, you know that person is living and breathing resumes. But if you're going to resumeriver.net, it's like maybe it's a single guy working in his basement and it's his side hustle, right?
Yeah, makes sense. And what are your thoughts now about the future of domains, especially premium one-word domains, with the new TLDs, with the trend of apps now, and all these new technologies? Do you think they will still be relevant 5, 10, 20 years from now?
Yeah, I think that it's an interesting thing to think about and to look at, but the fact that we're still using, you pick up the phone, you still type in a phone number, right? I mean, we have apps, and generally you do have everyone in your speed dial, but we still operate on phone numbers, and so the 800 numbers, they've gone up in value. And so when you have more and more TLDs coming out, we've got 1,200 right now, and there's going to be more in the future. We've also got like handshake domains and Namebase doing the alternative decentralized domain names. All of that noise increases the value of short.com domains. So I'm not saying that also applies to .biz, .info, but there are going to be stars among the new TLDs, .club, .xyz. These are really star pupils. But there's sometimes I see a TLD and I'm like, I didn't even know that was one. Right. And so they're hit and miss there. But if you have a 1 or 2 word.com domain, that value is definitely going up, and it's going up faster than I had predicted. So, face.com, if you'd asked me, 10 years ago, I would have sold it for $1 million. But, if you ask me today, the asking price is 10 million, and, we have sold domains this year and last year for a lot more than we had expected that we would be able to sell them for.
So that's great. The demand is growing then.
Indeed it is. And even these 2 and 3 word.coms that we had a lot of them priced at $588, and we've since increased almost all of them to $1,288. And we're debating right now whether we should increase that again to 24 or 2388. We like the 88. So we may do a blanket increase across the board for all of our 2word.coms to increase the price from around that $1,300 mark to around the $2,500 mark, because the market can bear it.
Where do you list your domains? Do you work with Afternic and others, or do you list them on your own portfolio size?
No, we work with Afternic, and we work with Afternic and Uniregistry for our buy it now prices. For our single word super premiums, we generally work with brokers, and generally we're waiting for someone to come to us, and so we found that is the best way to make sure that you're going to receive the top dollar, because we don't sell our domains at wholesale.
So what would you say is kind of the main skill that allowed you to succeed in this business of domaining? Was it more to do with making deals, trading, or business development?
Yeah, I think that what really got me started is that Rick Schwartz had a message board. He's an old time domainer, an OG. And he had a flat message board that, messages would be posted. It wasn't even organized. It was just like a stream of consciousness. And what I found very unique in that message board was that in the domain space, because each domain name is slightly different from someone else's, that the people and the domain investors are willing to share their information. They're like, this is how I negotiated. This is how I was able to get more money, or this is what I did with the lander, or this is how I monetized this domain, or this is how I negotiated to buy this domain, or this is how I found a domain for cheaper. And there was just like this amazing sharing of information and being helpful. And so I think that, when I came back to this message board and said, look, guys, I've lost my company. What do you guys do anyway? Right? Because I've just been really providing them with VIP customer service. But they took me under their wing and they showed me what they were doing and how they were making money. And really that network that I built from that message board carries me through to today. And so, I've tried to pay that forward and be helpful, be involved in charity, developing out the conference space, for the domain community, even our reasons when we're looking through our list of domain names of what we're going to develop, resume.com jumped out because it's an area that we can add value and be helpful to the university, college, and high school students so that they can get a better job than if we didn't exist. And with logo, it's like, how can we help people get online faster so that they can get online, and be successful? Whereas if we didn't exist, they may get side railed or derailed on this, 3-week logo process. So, our main mantra is always to be helpful. But yeah, as I said earlier, it's wrapped up in work, right? You're making your own luck. You're creating these opportunities, but it takes a lot of work. It takes putting teams together, building synergistic partnerships. And so, yeah, I think that, growing your network and is extremely, extremely powerful. And I didn't see that until after I had lost my first company. If I could, turn the clock back, my goodness, there's so many different things I would do differently as a young person. But yeah, it took me till age 30 when I was diagnosed with cancer to, kind of sit down and be like, okay, how do I actually work on my business? How do I, design my life to be a lifestyle entrepreneur? How do I, do things instead of just like going with the flow and just, seeing what was sticking? It was a bit more thought process and definitely servicing my business network.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember when I started domaining back in 2007, 2008, DN Forum was a place where most domainers used to hang out, and I found it also quite valuable to be able to interact with people, be able to join that community and learn from them. So I can definitely agree with that the value of networking was amazing in that space and specifically in that industry.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time, Richard. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Where can people find out more about you and follow up with what you're doing?
Okay, thank you, Michael. Yes, I'm Richard Lau. You can find me richard@lau.com, but the easier one to remember is richard@logo.com. And I'm on LinkedIn every day, so hit me up there. Reach out, make a connection, send me a message, and let's see what we can do together.
Well, thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Michael.
Domain Magnet is a leader in buying and selling online businesses with a proven track record of expertise gained from over 300 deals since 2004. To learn more about how we can help you acquire or exit a profitable online business today, head over to domainmagnet.com for more details.